The Mistake-Alex was alone in his small garage on the edge of town. It was a quiet night, and the sky outside was full of stars. His tools were scattered on the table, wires hanging everywhere, and the smell of oil filled the air. For weeks he had been working on a strange machine, something like a radio scanner, but much bigger and much louder. He believed it could pick up signals from space. His friends called him crazy, but he didn't care. Tonight, the machine was finally ready. Alex sat on his old wooden chair, eyes fixed on the glowing dials. The machine hummed softly, then louder, then quiet again. He adjusted the knobs and leaned closer. Suddenly, a sharp beep cut through the silence. He froze. The machine's screen flickered, showing strange symbols he had never seen before. They moved quickly, as if alive. Alex's heart raced. He grabbed his notebook and scribbled the symbols down, not knowing what they meant. Then the ground shook. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, but the shaking grew stronger, knocking over a jar of bolts. Tools fell to the floor with a loud clang. Outside, a bright blue light flashed so strong it filled the whole garage. Alex ran to the window. In the field behind his house, something was falling from the sky. It glowed like fire, but it wasn't burning. It moved fast, cutting through the air with a strange sound, like a whisper and a scream at the same time. He watched, breathless, as it crashed into the field with a loud thud. A cloud of dust rose high into the air. The blue light faded, leaving only darkness. Alex stood there for a moment, unsure what to do. Then curiosity pushed him forward. He grabbed a flashlight, slipped on his jacket, and ran outside. The field smelled of smoke and something metallic. Pieces of earth were thrown everywhere, and the grass around the crash site was flattened. In the middle of it all was a strange capsule, black and silver, shaped like a long egg. It was big, about the size of a car, and it glowed faintly under the moonlight. Alex walked closer. His hands shook as he touched the smooth surface of the capsule. It was warm. There was no door or handle, but thin cracks ran along the middle. He looked around. Nobody else was there. The town was quiet, and no one seemed to notice the crash. Just take it to the garage, he whispered to himself. It took him nearly an hour, but he managed to drag the capsule into his garage. It was heavy, but somehow it slid over the ground without leaving deep marks. Once inside, he locked the door and stood back to catch his breath. The capsule made a soft humming sound, as if it were alive. Alex crouched and ran his fingers along the cracks. To his surprise, the surface began to glow brighter, and the cracks widened with a hiss. What the? Before he could finish, the capsule split open with a low click. Steam poured out, cold and white. Alex stepped back, covering his mouth and nose. Inside was a girl. She lay curled up, wearing a strange, tight suit that shimmered in the light. Her hair was silver and floated slightly, as if underwater. Glowing blue lines ran along her skin, and her eyelids fluttered. Alex's eyes widened. No way, he whispered. Her eyes snapped open. They were bright, glowing blue, like two stars. She gasped and sat up, looking around wildly. When her eyes landed on Alex, she froze. Then she screamed. The sound was sharp and strange, not quite human. She pushed herself back against the capsule's wall, her hands held out in front of her. Alex raised his hands quickly. Hey, it's okay. I won't hurt you. But she didn't seem to understand. She looked at him with fear and anger. Her breathing was fast, her hands trembling. You, she spoke at last, her voice low and strange. Human. Alex blinked. She spoke English, sort of. Yes, I'm human. And you? She ignored his question. Her glowing eyes narrowed. Why trap me? Alex shook his head. Trap you? No, no. I didn't trap you. I found you. You fell from the sky. I was just trying to help. But she didn't seem convinced. She looked around, then at him again, her hands still raised like claws. Let me go, she said, her voice firmer now. Okay, Alex said, stepping back. You can go. I won't stop you. She moved slowly, trying to climb out of the capsule. But as soon as she put her feet on the ground, her legs gave out. She fell forward, and Alex rushed to catch her. She pushed him away weakly, whispering something under her breath. Alex didn't understand the words, but he could feel her fear. She lay there, breathing hard, looking up at him with those glowing eyes. What do you want from me? She asked suddenly. Her voice was softer now, but still full of suspicion. Are you going to kill me? Alex stared at her, completely lost for words. He shook his head slowly. Kill you? He whispered. No, I just want to know who you are. But she didn't answer. She closed her eyes for a moment, still breathing hard. Outside, the wind picked up, and a faint hum filled the air. A strange sound, distant, but growing louder. Alex looked at the girl. She opened her eyes again and said only one word, barely audible. They. Then her head dropped, and she fell unconscious. Alex stood there, heart pounding, the faint hum outside growing stronger. He didn't know what he had just brought into his garage. But it was too late to turn back now. Asterisk, the fur the garage was. Quiet now, but the air felt heavy. The strange hum outside had faded a little, but Alex could still feel it, like a low vibration under his feet. He stood there, staring at the alien girl lying on the floor. She was breathing, but weakly. Her glowing blue lines had dimmed, and her silver hair stuck to her face. Alex didn't know what to do. He had dreamed of meeting something from the stars all his life, but now that it had happened, he felt nothing but fear and confusion. Slowly, he knelt beside her. Hey, he said softly. Can you hear me? Her eyes fluttered open. They still glowed faintly, but now there was something else in them. A sharp, cold anger. She pushed herself up, even though her hands were shaking. She backed away from him, her eyes never leaving his. Stay. Away, she said, her voice low and full of warning. Alex raised his hands, palms open. Okay, I'm not touching you. See? I'm just trying to help. She let out a bitter laugh, though it sounded more like a cough. Help? She said, her words broken but clear. Human does not help. Human takes. Human kills. Her words cut through him. No, Alex said quickly. I'm not like that. I don't know who you've met before, but I'm not your enemy. You crashed. I brought you here because I thought you were hurt. She stared at him for a long time. Her expression softened for just a second, then hardened again. Why? Lock me? She demanded, pointing to the garage door. Alex frowned. What? No, I didn't lock you in. I just didn't want anyone else to see you. People here, they wouldn't understand. She didn't answer. She sat against the wall, catching her breath, her hands clutching something close to her chest. Alex noticed it now, a small, glowing object, round and metallic. It blinked faintly in her hand. What is that? He asked. She glared at him and covered it quickly. Not yours, she said. Okay, Alex said. But what does it do? Does it help you? She stayed quiet. Then suddenly the device in her hand began to flash faster. Her eyes widened. No, she whispered. Alex stepped closer, concerned. What's happening? What is that thing? She looked up at him with fear in her eyes for the first time. They are coming, she said. Alex froze. "Who's coming?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. She shook her head, her breathing fast. "If they find me, they destroy everything." Alex's stomach turned cold. "What do you mean, destroy?" She closed her eyes. "Your planet. Your people. All gone." Alex couldn't believe what he was hearing. He stared at her, hoping she was lying. But the look on her face told him she WSN single quotes T outside. The strange hum returned, louder now and closer. Alex ran to the window, above the fields. In the distance, he saw something moving through the clouds. Dark shapes, like black knives, cutting through the sky without sound. Their edges glowed faintly red, and the clouds seemed to twist around them. He swallowed hard and turned back to her. "Is that them?" She nodded weakly. "They will." "Not stop," she whispered. "Not until I'm dead." Alex felt a chill run through him. "Why? What did you do?" Her eyes opened slowly. "I ran away," she said simply. "I know their secret. I refused to obey. So now they hunt me." Alex stared at her, trying to understand. "And if they find you, they'll kill everyone else too." "Yes." He paced the room, his hands in his hair. This was insane. Just a few hours ago, he was fixing wires and dreaming about signals from space. Now, an alien girl was telling him his whole planet was in danger. The hum outside grew even louder. A faint light passed over the garage roof, like a searchlight. Alex turned back to her. "We have to hide you," he said. She looked at him with disbelief. "Why?" "Help me. You don't know me. You don't. Trust me." Alex hesitated. Then he spoke firmly. "Because you're in trouble. And you're here. That's enough." She stared at him for a long moment, then looked away. Suddenly, a sharp crack filled the air. The garage door shook violently. Alex jumped. "What was that?" She looked at him, her face pale. "They found you?" The door shook again, harder. This time, tools fell off the shelves, and dust rained from the ceiling. "We need to go," Alex said quickly. "Can you walk?" She tried to stand, but stumbled. Alex rushed to her side and helped her up. She didn't fight him this time. Her strength was fading fast. Together, they moved toward the back door, but before they could reach it, a strange beam of light cut through a crack in the garage door. It wasn't bright. It was black, a shadow that moved like smoke and burned where it touched. Alex froze. The girl grabbed his sleeve and whispered, harshly, "Don't stop. Move." They slipped out the back door and into the dark night. Behind them, the garage door cracked open, just enough for Alex to see something outside. A figure, tall and thin, its skin shining like metal, its eyes burning red. It stepped into the garage slowly, and Alex could feel its gaze even from a distance. The girl pulled him into the trees, her breathing sharp and fast. "If they see us," she hissed, "we die." Alex didn't look back. He held her arm and ran, the hum in the air growing into a roar, the sky behind them filling with strange, dark lights. For the first time in his life, he wished he had never built that machine. But it was too late. "We're already here. The truth forest was dark, and every step felt heavier than the last. Alex could barely see the path ahead, but he kept moving, pulling the alien girl along. Behind them, the sky glowed faint red, and strange shadows swept. Through the clouds. She stumbled again, her breath uneven, her glowing lines now so dim they were barely visible. He stopped and held her up. "You're not okay," he whispered. She shook her head quickly, trying to push him forward. "No. Keep moving. They're close." Alex looked back. Through the trees, he could see faint lights cutting through. The darkness, beams of red and black, scanning the ground. burning the grass wherever they touched. He tightened his grip on her arm. "We can't keep running forever," he said, panting. "You need to tell me what's going on. What are those things? Why are they hunting you? What do they want?" She didn't answer Dot, so he stopped walking and turned to face her. "Enough," he said firmly. "If you want me to help you, you have to tell me the truth. Now." She froze. For the first time, she looked afraid of him. "You don't want to know," she murmured. Double quotes. "Yes," he said. "I do." She closed her eyes. Then she let herself slide down to sit on the forest floor, her back against a tree. She held the small device in her hand, turning it slowly. Its light blinked faintly, like a dying star. Alex crouched in front of her. Start from the beginning. She opened her eyes and stared at him for a long time before she spoke. "I was one of them," she began, her voice quiet but clear. "I was born to destroy. That is what we do. We find new worlds. We take everything. We leave nothing behind." Alex listened, his stomach tight. "So, what happened?" he asked. She looked down at the ground. "One day I saw," she whispered. "I saw what we do. I saw children burning. I saw people begging. I heard them cry, and we laughed. That was the first time I felt it. Guilt." Her hands shook as she held the device closer to her chest. "So I ran," she said. "I stole this." She held up the device. "It holds all their secrets, all their plans. With this, maybe someone can stop them. But they can never let me go. If they catch me, they'll take this back, and your world will burn." Alex stared at the device, trying to understand. "So, that thing, it's like a key to stop them?" She nodded. "But only if I reach the right people. If they find me first, everything ends." Alex sat back on his heels, feeling the weight of her words sink in. Outside, the strange hum rose again. Closer now. The beams of light were weaving between the trees, burning away the branches as they came nearer. "We can't stay here," he said. But she didn't move. Her eyes were fixed on the device, her face pale and tired. "Leave me," she said softly. "They only want me. If you run now, you live." Alex blinked, surprised. "Are you serious?" He said, "After everything, you think I'm just going to leave you here?" Her glowing eyes met his. "Why not?" "It's what humans do, save themselves." Alex laughed bitterly. "You really don't know us, do you?" He said. Then he reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away this time. "We're getting out of here," he said. "Together." Suddenly, a sharp noise cracked through the forest, like glass shattering in the air. They both froze. Through the trees ahead, a dark figure appeared. It was taller than a man, its body thin and sharp, as if carved from metal and shadow. Its eyes glowed red, and it moved without making a sound. Alex's breath caught in his throat. The girl's grip tightened on his hand. "Don't look at it," she whispered. "If you look too long, it sees inside you." Alex forced himself to turn away, but he could feel the thing watching him, its gaze heavy like a stone. "Where do we go?" He whispered. She pointed deeper into the forest. "There's an old place, hidden, safe. For now, if we reach it, I can send a signal." "For help? How far?" he asked. "Far enough to die on the way," she said grimly. Behind him, another figure appeared, then another. Red eyes blinked through the darkness. Alex swallowed his fear and stood, pulling her to her feet. "Then let's not die," he said. They ran. Branches scratched his arms, and roots caught his feet, but he didn't stop. The hum grew louder, and the air seemed to burn as the creatures followed silently behind. Once, Alex glanced back and immediately regretted it. One of them was right there, no more than a few feet away. Its arm stretched toward him, long and sharp like a blade. He pushed the girl ahead of him, shouting, "Keep going." Suddenly, the girl stopped, holding out the device. It glowed brighter. Now, so bright, it lit the whole forest. The creatures hissed and staggered back. "What are you doing?" Alex yelled. "Buying us." "Time," she gasped. The light flared even brighter, and the creatures screamed, covering their faces. She grabbed Alex's hand again and pulled him forward. "Run!" They ran until his lungs burned and his legs felt like lead. Finally, the trees began to thin, and a strange stone structure rose ahead, half buried in earth, covered in vines. She stumbled to a stop and pointed at it. "There," she said, breathless. "Inside, we can hide." Alex helped her through. A narrow crack in the stones. Inside, it was cool and dark. Strange markings glowed faintly on the walls, and the hum outside finally began to fade. She collapsed to the floor, her chest rising and falling fast. Alex sat beside her, trying to catch his own breath. After a long silence, he turned to her. "What now?" he asked. She looked at him with tired eyes. "Now," she whispered, holding up the device. "We find someone who can end them before they end you." Outside, the red eyes still moved between the trees. Waiting, Alex stared into the darkness and clenched his fists. Whatever happened next, he was not letting her face it alone. The stone chamber was cold, but it felt safer than the forest. Faint glowing symbols danced across the walls like quiet flames. Alex sat against the wall, his chest still rising and falling fast. The alien girl lay on the ground, her silver hair spread around her like a halo. The glowing lines on her skin flickered weakly. She clutched the device close to her chest. Alex studied her face. She looked fragile now, nothing like the fierce creature who'd faced the hunters outside. Suddenly, her eyes opened. "They won't stop," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "We'll figure something out," Alex replied. Though his own voice was uncertain. She shook her head. "You don't understand? They don't tire. They don't fear. They smell me." Outside, the faint hum began again, soft at first, then louder, deeper, heavier. Alex's stomach nodded as the air seemed to vibrate around them. He stood and peeked through the crack in the stone. Red eyes moved through the forest. Dozens of them, maybe more. Silent, patient. The darkness seemed alive with them. Alex stepped back, his hands balling into fists. "They found us already," he said quietly. She sat up slowly, her movements shaky. "This place bought us." "Minutes," she said. "Not more." Alex turned. To her, frustration and fear boiling in his chest. "Then tell me, where are we running to? You said you could send a signal. How? Where?" She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "There is a tower, not far. They can't block the signal. There, if I reach it, they'll come for me, your people?" "No," she said bitterly. "Not my people. The ones who fight them." Alex swallowed hard. "How far is the tower?" She opened her glowing eyes and whispered, "Far enough to die before we reach it." Alex crouched beside her, placing his hand over hers. "You already said that before," he said softly. "But we're still alive, aren't we? So tell me how to get there." She stared at him for a long, silent moment. Then, finally, she nodded. "North," she murmured. "Through the forest. Past the river. Into the hills. The tower is hidden in the rocks." Alex nodded firmly. "Then let's move." He helped her to her feet. She leaned on him heavily at first, but straightened after a few steps. Behind them, the hum grew louder. The red eyes outside began to close in. Suddenly, a sharp crack split the silence. The stone door shattered like glass, and a black shadow slid inside Doublecoat's go. She shouted. Alex grabbed her hand and pulled her toward another crack in the wall. They slipped through just as a long black blade of energy cut through where they had stood. They stumbled into the open forest again, branches slashing at their arms and legs. The air burned with strange heat, and behind them, the hunters followed. Silently, fast, relentless. "Don't look back," she yelled. But Alex couldn't help it. He glanced over his shoulder and saw them, figures of shadow and steel, with burning red eyes, gliding across the ground like smoke. No footsteps, no sound, but getting closer with every heartbeat. They ran until Alex's lungs screamed for air. They jumped over fallen logs, crashed through thorn bushes, splashed through shallow streams. Everywhere they went. The hunters followed. Then the ground dropped sharply, a steep slope. Alex slid down, trying to keep his balance, pulling her. Along, at the bottom lay a wide river, black and cold under the moonlight. "Can you swim?" he asked breathlessly. She gave him a sharp look, as if the question insulted her. "Just keep up," she replied, her voice stronger now. Together, they plunged into the water. It was freezing, and Alex gasped as it soaked through his clothes. He fought to keep his grip on her hand as the current pulled at them above. The hunters stood at the river's edge, watching silently. Then, one by one, they stepped into the water, their forms melting into the black current as they followed. Alex's heart pounded as he swam, his arms aching. But the girl pulled ahead, her glowing lines brighter in the water. She led him toward the far bank, where a faint path disappeared into the rocks. When they finally reached the shore, both of them collapsed onto the wet ground, coughing and shivering. She sat up first, looking toward the hills ahead. Her eyes glowed brighter now, determination replacing fear. "We're close," she said. Alex followed her gaze. The hills loomed in the distance, dark and jagged. "Then let's finish this," he said, pushing himself up. But before they could take another step, a loud crack echoed across the river. One of the hunters stood ahead of them now, blocking the path, its long blade arm glowing faintly red. It moved closer, silent, unstoppable. Alex stepped in front of her instinctively, his hands clenched. "Keep going," he whispered. "Don't be foolish," she snapped. "Too late for that." He muttered. He picked up a heavy rock from the ground and hurled it at the creature. It shattered against its chest, but the thing didn't even flinch. Then it raised its arm. The blade pointed at Alex's heart, but before it could strike, the girl raised the device in her hand and pressed something. A burst of blinding light exploded around them, and the creature screamed, a horrible, metallic sound before dissolving into smoke. Alex stared at her in shock. "You could do that the whole time?" She didn't look at him. She started walking again, her voice calm and cold. "Not many times," she said. "The device is dying." He followed her in silence, his mind racing. Behind them, more hunters gathered at the riverbank, watching, waiting. Ahead, the hills rose higher, and the faint outline of the tower appeared against the stars, a spire of black stone with faint blue lights spiraling around it. They were close now, but the hunters weren't slowing down. The chase wasn't over, and Alex knew the worst was yet to come. The plant tower loomed ahead, a dark silhouette cutting into the sky. Faint blue lights spiraled up its sides, flickering like dying stars. It stood on a jagged hill of stone, surrounded by sharp cliffs and narrow paths. The air here felt colder, heavier, as if the land itself knew what was coming. Alex and the alien girl stood at the base of the hill, their clothes torn and wet from the river, their breaths white in the freezing air. She stared at the tower, her glowing eyes unreadable. "This is it," she whispered. "Looks cheerful," Alex muttered, trying to catch his breath. She didn't smile. She raised the small device in her hand, but it flickered weakly. The glow was faint now, like a dying ember. "What's the plan?" Alex asked. "We just walk up. There? Push a button?" She shook her head. "No," she said softly. "This is where it gets worse." Alex raised an eyebrow. "Worse? Great. I was worried things were going too well." She turned to face him, her expression serious now. "Listen. To me," she said, "the tower is protected. Inside, there is a gate, the only place where I can send the signal." "But," she trailed off, her eyes dropping to the ground. "But what?" He pressed. "The gate is alive," she said. Alex blinked. "Alive? Like it moves? It attacks?" She nodded. "It feeds on fear, on pain. It will try to break, use us, make us turn back. But we can't. If I don't reach the gate and send the signal, then it's over. For me, for you, for everyone." Alex swallowed hard. "So what happens when you send the signal?" "Your friends come to pick you up?" She shook her head slowly. "No, they won't just come for me. They'll come to burn the hunters, to save your planet. But only if they believe I'm still alive. If the signal fails, they'll assume I'm dead, and they'll leave forever." Alex stared at the tower, his heart pounding. "So," he said finally, "we get inside, reach the gate, send the signal, and if this thing tries to stop us?" She met his eyes. "Then we fight, or we die." Alex laughed softly under his breath. "You make it sound easy." She looked at him curiously. "You're afraid," she said. "But you still stay. Why?" He took a long breath and shook his head. "Because if I ran now, I'd never forgive myself. And maybe you deserve a chance to live too. Even if you're not one of us." Her expression softened slightly, but she didn't say anything. She just turned back to the tower. The hum began again, louder now, closer. Alex glanced behind them. At the edge of the cliffs, dozens of hunters gathered silently, their red eyes glowing in the dark. More were arriving every second. There, forms melting out of the shadows. "They're not giving up," Alex murmured. "They won't," she said. "So let's move before they catch up." He replied. Together, they climbed the narrow path up the hill, the ground sharp and uneven under their feet. The closer they got to the tower, the stranger the air became. The light dimmed even though no clouds covered the sky. Their breath turned to mist. At the foot of the tower stood a massive black door, covered in glowing symbols that shifted and crawled like insects. Alex stopped in front of it, feeling the cold radiating from the stone. "Is this the gate?" She nodded. "Once we're inside," she warned, "it will try to break you. Don't believe what you see. Don't trust what you feel. Just keep moving." Alex let out a shaky laugh. "That sounds very reassuring." She placed her hand flat against the door. The symbols flared, and the stone groaned. As it slowly opened. Inside was darkness. Alex hesitated. "Ladies first?" He joked weakly. She glanced at him. "Coward," she murmured, but there was the faintest hint of a smile on her lips. They stepped inside together. Immediately, the air shifted. The walls glowed faint blue, but the floor below them rippled like water. Alex felt dizzy, as though the ground wasn't really there. "Stay close," she said, her voice echoing strangely. They walked forward, deeper and deeper, until the path split into 3 tunnels, each one twisting into the dark. Alex stopped. "Which way?" She closed her eyes and held the device up. It blinked faintly, then pointed toward the left tunnel. "This way," she said. As they moved, the walls began. 2. Whisper. Faint voices, calling his name. Alex froze. He could hear his mother's voice, soft and warm, telling him to come home. He could see her standing ahead of him, in the tunnel, her arms outstretched. "Alex," she called. "You don't have to do this. Come home." He took a step toward her, but the girl grabbed his arm hard. "Don't," she hissed. He blinked, and the vision vanished. The tunnel was empty again. "It's just the gate," she said. "It feeds on you. Don't listen." He nodded quickly, shaking the chill from his bones. They walked faster now. But the whispers grew louder, the visions sharper. Dead friends, old fears, terrible memories, all reaching for him, trying to drag him down. He focused on her glowing lines ahead of him, using them as his guide. Finally, after what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a massive chamber. In the center stood the true gate, a great black archway pulsing with dark energy. Its surface shimmered like a pool of oil, and the air around it crackled. Alex stared at it, his chest tight. "You're sure you can do this?" he asked. She didn't answer at first. She just stepped forward, raising the device. The gate roared, a horrible sound, like 100 screams at once. Black tendrils reached out from it, wrapping around her arms and legs, trying to pull her in. Alex lunged forward instinctively, grabbing her shoulders. "You can't do this alone," he shouted over the roar. She looked back at him, her glowing eyes blazing with something between fear and courage. "Then help me," she said simply. Together, they pressed the device into the heart of the gate. Light exploded around them. The tendrils writhed and shrieked, trying to tear them apart. The device blazed brighter and brighter, almost blinding. Just when Alex thought he couldn't hold on any longer, the gate shuddered. And then, silence. The tendrils fell away. The black surface froze, then cracked like glass. The gate was open. She fell to her knees, gasping, the device dark in her hands now. Alex crouched beside her. "You did it," he said, breathless, but her eyes widened in horror. "No," she whispered. "It's not over. This was only the beginning. Now they know where we are. Now they'll all come." Alex stood slowly, staring at the broken gate. Outside, the tower shook, and the hunter's roar rose again, louder, angrier than ever. The plan had worked, but the real fight was just beginning. The risk. The tower groaned like a wounded animal, and the walls began to crack as Alex and the alien girl stood in front of the shattered gate. The silence didn't last. Outside the chamber, the roar of the hunters rose like a storm. It echoed down the tunnels, deeper and louder than before. Hundreds of voices, cold and merciless. Alex helped the girl to her feet. Her body shook, her glowing lines faint and broken now. "We did what we came for," he said. "The signal's sent. Let's get out of here." But she didn't move. She stared at the cracked gate, her face pale. "Not yet," she whispered. Alex frowned. "What do you mean? You said this was it. The gate, the signal, it's done." She shook her head slowly. "The signal woke them," she said. "The others, the real ones, they're coming. But if the hunters capture this tower, before they arrive, they'll shut it down, destroy the signal. And then—" She trailed off, but Alex understood. "Then they win," he finished. She nodded faintly. "So? We hold the tower," she said. Alex stared at her in disbelief. "Hold the tower? Against them? Have you seen them? There's hundreds out there." She met his eyes with a calm, cold determination. "1 hour," she said. "That's all. We only need 1 hour. And then it ends." Alex's hands curled into fists. Fear clawed at his chest, but he forced himself to breathe. "Fine," he said finally. "Then we hold the damn tower." The two of them moved quickly through the upper levels of the tower. The air was thick with heat and strange energy. Walls cracked and glowed as if alive. Faint shadows moved in the corners. Watching them, Alex found an old balcony overlooking the narrow path that wound up to the tower. It would have to do. Below, the hunters gathered, more than before. A swarm of dark figures, their red eyes burning in the night. "There's too many," Alex murmured. She stood beside him, her thin frame steady. "There's always too many," she replied softly. He glanced at her. "Do you have a plan? Or are we just hoping they're scared of rocks?" She raised the dying device in her hands and shook her head. "The device is dead now. No more light bursts." She pulled something from her suit. Small metal rods, sharp and glowing faintly blue. "Barriers," she explained. "Temporary. Weak, but better than nothing." Alex watched as she stabbed the rods into cracks in the floor. When activated, they formed thin walls of shimmering blue energy across the entrances. "They won't last," she added. Alex nodded grimly. "Just like us." The ground trembled as the hunters began to climb the hill. The first of them reached the lower path, moving silently but with terrifying speed. Alex grabbed a heavy iron bar from the floor and held it tight. His palms were slick with sweat, but his grip didn't loosen. "1 hour," he muttered under his breath. "Just 1 hour." The attack began all at once. The first wave of hunters slammed into the barriers, and the walls of blue light flared under the impact. One of the creatures shoved its long blade arm through the barrier, its tip slicing inches from Alex's face before being forced back. He swung the iron bar as hard as he could, shattering part of the hunter's black armor. It shrieked, a horrible metallic sound, and fell backward, but more took its place. The alien girl stood at the center of the room now, her hands pressed to the ground. She whispered in her strange language, and the floor around her began to glow faintly, circles of light spreading outward. "What are you doing?" Alex shouted over the noise. "Slowing them," she replied through gritted teeth. But even as she spoke, cracks began to form in the barriers. Hunters stabbed through the light walls, black tendrils wrapping around the edges and pulling them apart. Alex fought desperately, swinging the iron bar, throwing stones, anything to push them back. One hunter leaped over the barrier entirely, landing in the center of the room. Alex charged it, knocking it off balance just long enough for the girl to stab it with another glowing rod. It screamed and dissolved into smoke, but more kept coming. The walls of the tower shook violently now. Debris rained from above. The air was thick with heat and the smell of something burning. Alex's arms ached, his chest heaved. His shirt was torn and bloody from shallow cuts, but he didn't stop. How much longer? He shouted. She looked up at him, sweat running down her face, her eyes blazing. 5 minutes, she said. "We're not going to make 5 minutes." He shot back as if to prove his point. One of the barriers shattered completely. Hunters poured through the gap, at least a dozen, their eyes glowing brighter than ever. Alex backed up toward her, raising the bar again. "Any more tricks?" he asked. She reached into her suit and pulled out one final rod, bigger than the others. She pressed it into his hand. "What's this?" he demanded. "The core," she said. "You break it, it ends everything, even us." Alex stared at her. "What?" "If they breach the room, break the core. Destroy the tower. It will kill them too. But—" she paused, her eyes meeting his. "It kills us too." Alex's hands shook as he held the glowing rod. "So, that's the plan?" he asked. "Hold them off, or take everything down with us?" She nodded. 1 hour, she reminded him. He took a deep breath and nodded. Let's make it count. The final wave hit like a storm. Hunters swarmed the chamber, their blades slicing through air and stone. Alex and the girl stood back to back now, fighting, pushing them away inch by inch. The floor cracked beneath their feet. Light from the gate above flickered and dimmed. Hunters closed in, black tendrils wrapping around Alex's legs, pulling him down. He fought, but he could feel himself slipping. The girl screamed something in her language and unleashed a final burst of energy, throwing the creatures back. But it cost her. She collapsed to her knees, gasping. Alex looked at the glowing core in his hands, his heart hammering. The hunters surged forward again, faster than before, unstoppable now. He glanced at her, and she nodded once, her eyes full of quiet defiance. He tightened his grip on the core. If this was the end, at least it would mean something. He raised it high, ready to strike, and then a sudden blast of blinding white light filled the room, and everything froze. Outside, the sound of ships descending, weapons firing, and the hunters screaming filled the air. Help had arrived, but the risk wasn't over yet. Alex stood there, trembling, the core still in his hand, and realized the fight had only just begun. The Choiceth Tower shook violently under Alex's feet. The blinding white light still hung in the air, and for a moment everything stood still. The hunters frozen in place, their red eyes flickering and dimming. He stood in the center of the room, the glowing core still in his hands, ready to strike. Behind him, the alien girl knelt on the cracked floor, her silver hair clinging to her face, her body trembling from exhaustion. The light from her glowing lines was faint now, but her eyes still burned, fierce and determined. Then the silence broke. A sound like 1,000 wings swept across the sky. Outside the tower, beams of white fire rained down from above. The hunters screamed, a sharp, metallic sound as they burned and dissolved into black smoke. Alex ran to the broken window and looked up. The sky was filled with ships, sleek and silver, moving with impossible speed. Their lights cut through the darkness, and their weapons tore through the hunters below. The girl forced herself to stand, leaning heavily against the wall. They came, she said softly. Alex turned to her, relief flooding his chest. You did it, he said. You sent the signal. They came for you. But she shook her head. Not for me, she whispered. For the world. To stop the hunters. She stepped toward the center of the room, where the shattered gate still glowed faintly. Alex followed, confused. So, it's over? He asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hand against the gate. It flared weakly, like dying. Embers. Alex noticed something strange then. The ships in the sky weren't just destroying the hunters. They were destroying the tower too. Massive beams of light cut into the stone, tearing it apart piece by piece. He felt the floor shift. Under his feet? What are they doing? He asked sharply. What they must, she replied. He stared at her, realization dawning. Wait, he said. If they destroy the tower while we're still here, she nodded. We die. Alex took a step back. Then we have to go. Now. Before, she turned to him, her face calm but her eyes full of something he couldn't quite name. I can't leave, she said. His chest tightened. What do you mean? Of course you can. The tower's falling apart. Come on. But she shook her head. The gate is still open, she said. Weak, but open. If they don't close it from this side, the hunters will return. Again and again. Someone has to stay and end it. Alex froze. You mean stay here? And he couldn't finish the sentence. She simply nodded. Someone has to make the choice, she said. He looked down at the glowing core in his hands. It still pulsed faintly, hot against his skin. One strike into the gate, and it would all end. The hunters, the tower, everything. But it would also mean her life, and maybe his too. Outside, the ships fired another volley, and the tower groaned loudly. Stones cracked and fell from the ceiling. The path behind them was already blocked by rubble. He met her gaze, his mind racing. There's another way, he said desperately. There has to be another way. We can both. There isn't. She interrupted gently. She took a shaky breath and stepped closer to him. You don't belong here, she said quietly. You still have your people, your world. Go back, live. Alex shook his head. You think I can just walk away? After all this? After what you've done? Her lips curved into the faintest of smiles. Humans. She murmured. And she took his hand, the one holding the core, and closed his fingers around it. Go, she whispered. Before it's too late. But Alex didn't move. His heart pounded, his chest tight. The hunters were almost gone now, but the tower was collapsing faster than ever. He looked at her, really looked, and saw something there he hadn't noticed before. Not just fear, not just anger, but a quiet sadness. A loneliness that no light could ever fully erase. And he knew then, she wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for him. For all of them, and she didn't believe she deserved to. Live. He closed his eyes and took a long breath. When he opened them again, he spoke, his voice steady. If you're staying, he said, then so am I. Her eyes widened. What? You heard me, he said. You said someone has to close it from this side. Fine, we do it together. She shook her head furiously. No, you can't. You mustn't. You're human, he interrupted. Yeah, I've heard. But you're wrong about us. He stepped closer to the gate and raised the core high. We don't leave people behind, he said simply. For a moment, she just stared at him. Then, slowly, she placed her hand over his together. They slammed the core into the heart of the gate. The room filled with blinding white light. The walls cracked, the floor split open, and the hunters outside screamed as they burned away into nothing. The tower shook violently, stones raining down, but Alex didn't let go of her hand. Even as the light grew hotter and brighter, even as the ground fell away beneath them, he held on. You're not alone anymore, he whispered. And then silence. When Alex opened his eyes again, everything was quiet. He stood in a wide, empty field under a starry sky. The tower was gone. The hunters were gone. Only the faint smell of smoke and the soft hum of the wind remained. Beside him, she stood, her silver hair glowing faintly, her eyes soft now, almost human. She looked at him, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled. A real smile. Above them, a single ship hovered silently, waiting. She turned to him and asked quietly, Will you come with me? Alex stared at the stars above, then at her, then back at the broken earth behind him. He thought of everything they'd been through. The fear, the fight, the choice. And slowly, he nodded. Double quotes. Yeah, he said. Let's go. Hand in hand, they walked toward the waiting ship. And the stars swallowed them whole.